I owe you one thing. Hey, here's what the human said. After tossing the communications device into my hands and slowly limping up the gangway to the newly repaired ship, no one would have believed that I had saved an injured alien. The only communicator I had was the die-strange silver pod, but that was many years ago when I and most likely humans were young. While I was looking for berries in the forest, I heard a lot of loud falling sounds and ran towards the sound. Out of curiosity, I found a path 3 times as wide as I was tall, made of field trees and a trench dug into the ground. I followed a long, ditch-like valley in the forest to find what had created it. A huge round ship was floating just above the ground, with a slope extending from the middle to the ground, and a pile of myself was crumpled and bleeding, and I immediately ran up to it, dazed and confused. I found a person. There were cuts and puncture wounds on his arms. One leg was bent at an unnatural angle. They said something in their language that I couldn't understand, but I silently entered their minds, adopted the strange language of mammals, and, with my own help, found my way to the top of the slope. I was able to get the medicine set that was on top. Please help me. I didn't answer anything. I just climbed the slope. As I was looking for it, I thought it was a box of medical supplies. When I saw a metal box with a green cross on the front, I grabbed it and ran to the person who cut off the sleeve of my suit with scissors. As I took out the scissors and looked at the blunt tips, looking at the fabric clinging to my skin, I felt my anxiety ease in the human's direction. I cleaned, bandaged, and splinted his wounds and broken leg. I gave her something called oxy, and she gradually started to calm down. He came to his senses. He blinked twice and looked at me, his long, bright red hair flowing as he gently shook his head. Thank you. I'm pretty confused after that miscalculated jump, but thanks to you, I'll survive and hopefully get this. When I got home, people were saying, I owe you something. I need something. So I helped them stand up. If you press this little button right here, you can establish a communication link somewhere in space anyway. I have to go, Marine. I don't want my new toy test pilot to get lost again for too long. I owe you, her husband. He handed me his communications device and limped his way up the ramp. Now I'm sitting on the brig of a pirate ship with nothing but a useless little piece of silver. Dad sighed and pressed the button again. Suddenly, there was a pounding sound on the hull, and I and 2 others gave up on boarding. We found ourselves in the middle of an empty space. Who could hear the heavy gunfire echoing dully through the hull? Couldn't believe my ears. There are no armies that use kinetics anymore, to say the least. An effective projectile has enough recoil to seriously injure most species, but the explosion sound is audible. The propellant charge was getting closer and closer. Then there was silence for a while, and then the door rang. 2 groups of 10 masked and armored men burst into the brig, raised large rifles, and swept through every nook and cranny until everything was clear. One then looked at the device on his wrist, nodded, unplugged it, and removed his gas mask and helmet, which were now shoulder length. His red hair falls out. Let me get you out of here. I have debts to pay.